Well, the fight is over. Happened yesterday. Obviously, I have no footage to show you because it was aired on Netflix, and I would like to not get sued, and I would also like to keep my channel. So we have a few things to talk about. Spoilers ahead. Of course, if you haven't watched the fight, I'd go recommend it. I'm just going to say I'm very disappointed in the main event. And I say main event because people were saying that the actual fight started at 8, which it technically did. But the way these fights work is there is something called a card, which has a list of fights before the main event. And the main event was, of course, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. And the first two fights, I didn't even watch, right? Because I was talking with a couple of buddies of mine. My girlfriend suggested that the fight's probably going to start around 11:30. And so I was like, okay, probably not going to watch anything. And so I skipped the first two fights, and then I watched the second main event. The fight that happened before the main event was Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. And I'm going to say now, again, spoilers ahead, that fight was miles more entertaining than the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight. Like they were exchanging more shots than the Civil War, dude. I tell you what, like they were just, it was like Goku versus Vegeta. I don't know if they actually fight. I've never seen Dragon Ball, but regardless, that fight was incredibly entertaining. There were a few bad cuts and bruises there, a lot of blood, so it was pretty gruesome, but it was definitely a worthwhile fight to watch. It was really entertaining. Do you know what wasn't entertaining though? Two things. One, the Netflix streaming quality. This live event, as I said in my previous video, was streamed on Netflix, and it sucked. The stream quality sucked. It was like I logged on at around 10:30 because I was expecting 30 minutes the main event might start, and it sucked. I couldn't log in for a solid 25 minutes, and the bitrate was just terrible. Everything was just constantly loading. It just was not a pleasant experience. But it makes sense because the traffic to the Netflix website and the Netflix app must have been out of this world. But regardless, that's only at like a third of the main issue here, because the main event, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, was trash. It was trash. Jake Paul won, first of all. I mean, I think we all saw this coming, right? Guy half someone's age and probably scripted, definitely won. But the main part is that it was so depressing watching the fight happen. First of all, I can't really tell if it was scripted because a lot of the fight didn't look scripted. It just looked depressing, right? Because you see Mike Tyson and you see Jake Paul. Mike Tyson is double Jake Paul's age, and you can, like, as you watch the fight, you can tell that Mike Tyson's body knows what to do. Or, sorry, excuse me, Mike Tyson's mind knows what to do, but his body just won't do it. If I remember correctly, Mike Tyson exchanged like less than half of the punches that Jake Paul threw at Mike. It was depressing, and you could see throughout the entire fight that Mike Tyson's feet didn't move. He was just stationary. He threw hardly any punches. He didn't do anything. But whenever he did, Jake Paul ran away. And like, I mean, who wouldn't? You're fighting literally Mike Tyson. But it was a really depressing fight. Mike Tyson showed his age more than he showed his skin. And it was really depressing to watch. And it was even more depressing when someone with a huge stick up their ass like Jake Paul won. And he's going to say he's the greatest fighter in the world because he beat Mike Tyson. It's just, I watched it and I got very depressed. Mike Tyson just looked upset. He looked defeated. He looks like an old grandpa who just wanted to have a good time. It's like when you're playing a game of Call of Duty and you kill someone and you're like, yeah, get shit on, nerd. And then they're like, oh, you got me, good game. Like that's kind of how it felt. No, that's not that's exactly how it felt. Mike Tyson just kind of didn't do anything. And Jake Paul ran around and then, kind of punched him a little bit. And then that was it. And of course he won by unanimous decision. A couple of the fight rules real quick. There's no 3 knockdown rule. The gloves were 14 ounces instead of the normal 10 ounces. And it was an 8-round fight. And the fight went up to 8 rounds. No knockouts, of course. And the fight was just incredibly boring. I stayed up extra late. I stayed up until 2 a.m. talking with some buddies after. I mean, I was talking with them and then I got off because I didn't feel very well. But regardless, right after the fight, got on call with some of my friends and I was like, that was the most depressing thing I've ever seen in my entire life because nothing happened. They just spent half the match hugging each other. I was so depressed that I got really nauseous and had to go to bed early. It was weird. It was not a very pleasant experience. On top of the fact that the previous fight was so entertaining, like it hyped you up a little bit, right? But then also during the actual main event, the Netflix streaming quality just got terrible. Like every time they exchanged a punch, my internet would load for 10 seconds. And it doesn't help that I'm on a university campus website, which really sucks. So it wasn't very fun. And now the worst part is that we have to deal with this head-ass dude, Jake Paul, curly hair looking crusty-ass beard over here, boasting about this, right? This is the last thing we wanted to happen because, let's be real, no one really likes Jake Paul. I'm just going to be honest. No one appreciates him. I mean, I might be sounding a little bit harsh, but no, like everyone wanted to see Mike Tyson cave his face in. I'm just going to be honest with you. Jake Paul is a scammer. He is doesn't deserve half the stuff he has. And that's the honest truth. I mean, you could say whatever you want to me, to my face, but it's like, it's just everyone wanted to see something. Everyone had their expectations so high, and nothing happened. If I recommend you go watch the fight some way. I don't really know how you can go back and watch it because it was live streamed on Netflix, but I'm sure there's got to be some way you can watch a video about it. But it was just a very depressing, very slow, very drawn out fight that really shouldn't have happened. And as a massive Mike Tyson fan myself, it made me upset because it made me realize how much age does to someone. It made me realize how scary of a factor time is. And it instilled in me a fear of getting older, which I never have, because I am under the mindset of my age is my age because I've lived long enough to experience my age, if that makes sense. I'm almost 20, by the way, if you didn't already know that. I have been lucky and fortunate enough to live as long as I have. But seeing this fight kind of reintroduced me to the idea that I'm getting older and I'm not going to be as capable as I am every year that my life passes. It's a pretty depressing feeling. And it does take a little bit of a mental effort to get out of that headspace, which it is valuable to get out of that headspace. It's of no use to you personally to think that, oh my gosh, I'm getting older, I'm getting weaker, I'm getting slower, I'm getting fatter. That's doing nothing positive for you. You need to instead think of your age as a medal. Think of your age as a massive achievement, because no matter how old you are, like there are some people who will never get to experience your age, which is, I mean, also a pretty depressing thing. But my point is, I'm very lucky to experience being an older 19-year-old and almost 20 years old. And I mean, Mike Tyson is obviously very lucky to experience the year of 58. That's a massive achievement. But as I said, it doesn't hide the fact that his age really showed during that fight. And as I said, it makes me more upset that Jake Paul won. I mean, we kind of all knew deep down in our heart of hearts that Jake Paul would have won because he has the stamina, he has the snap to him, he has a oomph. He doesn't have the strength, doesn't have the body. We all know that younger usually beats older, and disregarding experience and all that stuff. Boxing is a sport with such a heavy requirement on stamina and a heavy requirement on, like arm length. And Jake Paul also beat Mike Tyson in the fact that Jake Paul was just bigger. He was just a taller person with like a 5 or 6 inch wingspan over Mike Tyson, which, I mean, if Mike Tyson was in his prime, if Mike Tyson was the same age as Jake Paul would die. I'm just going to say that now. Mike Tyson would rip his head off, but that's just obviously not what we see here. And that's that. The fight's over, the event's over. We're probably going to hear a lot of shit from Jake Paul about this, but nothing we can really do about it. I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, go re-watch the live stream, go watch the card, but only watch the third fight. Don't even watch the main event, because the third fight between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano was incredible. It was very entertaining. I've been seeing, like, on TikTok this morning, I've been seeing a lot of people like with like a video of like a Dragon Ball Z characters or like Naruto characters fighting, like fist fighting, and then it just says a caption like how that third female fight went in the UFC card last night, or not UFC, was it UFC? I don't really know, but like they're comparing a lot of like anime hand-to-hand combat scenes, which are really fluid, with the fight between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, and it's very accurate because that fight was incredible. I think they were two of the best female boxers in the world, and you can absolutely see that. And I think it was a rematch from 2020. I'm not sure if that's completely accurate, but I think I heard something about that from the announcer. So there was some heated, boiling blood between them, and you could absolutely see it. Spoiler alert: Katie Taylor won by, I think, 2 or 3 points, and it was just a really good fight. I do believe that Amanda Serrano did deserve the win, but regardless. And it was also pretty funny that Katie Taylor is Irish, and when the announcer was putting the mic up to her mouth so she could speak about like her thoughts and feelings going in and during the fight, like she was out of breath and she's Irish, so her voice is just cracking and like she's just huffing and puffing, and you can't understand a single word she's saying even if you speak fluent Irish. It was it was pretty funny. But yeah, that's it. Just wanted to say that, spoiler alert, the fight sucked. Wasn't worth the wait, but it is what it is. Don't take your age for granted. Go take risks. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm this old and I'm proud of it, because, like so many people haven't lived as long as I have. And that's really something to be proud of. And like always, stay safe.